Our forefathers weren't the Pilgrims. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. The rock was landed on us. We were brought here against our will. We were not brought here to be made citizens. We were not brought here to enjoy the constitutional gifts that they speak so beautifully about today. Because we weren't brought here to be made citizens today, now that we've become awakened to some degree and we begin to ask for those things which they say are supposedly for Americans, they look upon us with hostility and unfriendliness. If you're interested in freedom, you need some judo, you need some karate, you need all the things that will help you fight for freedom. Nationalism is the wave of the present and the future. It is nationalism that's bringing freedom to oppressed people all over the world. It was nationalism that brought freedom to the Algerians. It was nationalism that brought freedom to the Nigerians and to the Ghanaians. It was nationalism that brought freedom to the people of Uganda and Tanganyika and Sudan and Somaliland. The Africans didn't get it by sitting in. They didn't get it by waiting in. They didn't get it by singing "We Shall Overcome." They got it through nationalism. And you and I will get it through nationalism. What is it? What is it that makes it difficult for the philosophy of nationalism to spread among the so-called Negroes? Number one, they think they have a stake in America. They think they have an investment in this country, which we do. We invested 310 years of slave labor, 310 years, every day of which your and my mother and father worked for nothing. Not 8 hours a day. There was no union in that day. They worked from sun up until sundown, from can't see in the morning until can't see at night. They never had a day off. And on Sunday, they were allowed to sit down and sing about when they died, they wouldn't be slaves no more. When they died, they wouldn't be slaves no more. They'd go up in the sky, and every day would be Sunday. That's a shame. And it is that 310 years of slave labor that went in, that was my and your contribution into this particular economy and political system. They can give us the back pay. Let's join in. If this is what the Negro wants, let's join in. Let's show him how to struggle. Let's show him how to fight. Let's show him how to bring about a real revolution. Let's make him stop jiving. You don't need a debate. You don't need a filibuster. You need some action.
Welcome to the Gilchrist Experience. I'm sure that gives you a little insight on the real anger here in America, you know, seeing the Klan rise up and burn down 7 churches according to last night in Charlotte. We have a video of that, but what's the state of America? Malcolm seems to be as powerful as ever. Nationalism and fight for the right to be free.
Well, when you speak of nationalism, what nation are you speaking of? What nation are you referring to?
The nation that we helped build.
Well, this nation is divided amongst itself,
Right.
which is part of the problem that we're seeing right now in the nation.
Right.
This nation is not united. It's very much divided. It was not united 160 years ago.
Right.
And it's still not united. We have nationalists, and we talk of nationalism, we can think of black nationalists. We can think of Marcus Garvey, Malcolm, Martin. We can think of nationalists who are those who wave the flag and
Are the Klan
sing
considered
America
nationalists?
the beautiful. You have Klansmen who consider themselves nationalists, but they're more on not so much nationalists
They
as
wanna
they
go
are
back.
race-centered organizations, but and their flag is not the American flag. Their nation is not the United States, but it is a nation wherein white supremacy and white dominance is the rule of law. So there are a number of nations within this nation, and there are even more, you know.
Right.
So the United States, as described as a melting pot, you know, you put carrots and onions and peas and cut up a sweet potato and throw some beans in there, and you can make soup. But the thing is, you can identify the ingredients in the soup. We are not in a melting pot. This is not where people just assimilate and disappear into the culture and they're not heard of anymore. The pride that was promoted during the 60s by James Brown, I'm black and I'm proud. See, he got
Well, this
everybody
is Malcolm
else.
speaking then.
Yes, and even Malcolm. So everybody else got on our bandwagon and substituted our phrases for their own. So that notion of having pride in oneself transcended to every other group within this country.
But since this is, since we have a black president, supposedly this is supposed to be post-racial, we're becoming a little bit more open in our society.
Well, that's a myth. There's no such thing as
Of course it is,
post-racial.
but I'm just saying, we're finding out that all this is a big lie. As America is just as hypocritical as it's always been. And we seem to be on the path of destruction. This young kid walked into a church and murdered 9 individuals. And they were the best of our best. Churchgoers.
We had 3
And
clergymen.
let me finish this
Go ahead.
one point about that's an affront to God, going to anybody's sanctuary and killing the best of the best, the most holy of holies. And these Christians, living by the Christian doctrine, forgave. I mean, they lived the Christian to the T. All this love energy came out, and they sent this boy to Christ. Say, we forgive you. All you have to do is find Christ, and you won't go to hell. You won't be. But we have to watch this young boy who's nearly brainwashed by the system, by Lindsey Graham talking against Obama. I mean, it's his state. He was one of the Nikki, what's her last name?
You're talking about the governor?
The governor, Nikki Bailey.
Yeah.
All right. She's promoting the flag. He's torching the American flag and promoting the Confederate flag, which is a symbol of treason.
Right.
All right, of white supremacy, death to blacks, burning crosses, which is anti-Christian. All right, that put the fear of God. But yet, blacks are coming out and saying, we forgive you, and, you know, find Christ.
That is not about being black. The fact that they're forgiving is about Christianity.
Okay.
Has nothing to do with being black. I saw...
But we're being persecuted because we're black.
Right.
Black Christians.
Right. I saw...
Supposedly by the Klansmen who are white Christians.
Well, they believe they're Christians. Now...
Well, they don't believe we're human in the first place. Is
yeah,
that what it is?
They believe they're Christians. The fact that you believe something doesn't make it so.
But this young kid was convinced that we weren't human, you think?
I don't know about that. I think that with the indoctrination that's been going on, and it's nothing new. This, you know, everybody's all shocked. There's no need to be shocked when people have been trying to live under an illusion, as we said, post-racist. But there's no such thing as post-racial. The country moved forward 7 years ago in selecting a black president. And you have to give credit to the white population that chose to go with the black guy because of his intellect, because of his presentation, because of the way that he commanded the language over and against the white guy. So for them, it wasn't about race. It was about common sense.
Right.
The idiocy of the Republican Party made no sense even to white people. So we see that the dominant culture is they're not drinking the Kool-Aid anymore.
Right.
They stopped drinking the Kool-Aid. And let's look at the incendiary statements by this buffoon here in New York, Donald Trump. His comments about my grandchildren are half Mexican. All right, one of my daughters-in-law is Mexican.
Okay.
So for him to make a statement like that is a further affront, and we can't get caught up in nationalism.
But we know Trump is an idiot.
We know that, but the fact is this, and we need to be mindful of the fact that credence is given to this stupidity by the media. All right, there's a lot of stuff that's on television that shouldn't even be there for any reason because it's pure nonsense. A guy like Donald Trump, he gets play because he has TV shows and he throws his money around. All right, he's lost more money than he's made, and he's a professional when it comes to bankruptcy. So he makes a statement like this, and he's trying to feed into the mindset of a core of people in this country. And you've got to watch the code words. You got to watch the code words. We never had a problem with Mexicans coming into this country. We had a serious problem with Cubans coming into this country when Fidel Castro released all of the people from his jails and sent them here in the 1980s. That was a problem. That was a major problem in New York. What's going on in Mexico with the unrest, the drug lords that are there? We got our own drug lords here. We have our own rapists here. We have our own murderers here. We have our own governmental corruption here. We have everything right here without casting the finger at another group of people who are coming here to do what everybody else except us have done, is to come here and earn a living. Like as Malcolm said, we didn't come here, we were brought here. So for Trump to have made that statement, he is stirring this pot, this racist pot of violence. He's stirring it. And it's going to, I spoke with a guy.
What about all the other people that are talking about Obama, the way they talked about Obama? And they're stirring the race pot every second. When Joe Wilson yelled out in the Senate.
Called him a liar.
Called him a liar. He's from South Carolina.
Right.
All right? Now we got in South Carolina, after this murder of 9 people in a church, we've got 7 church burnings. Now, this one little South Carolina, some were in North Carolina. I think one was in Ohio. I had a map of the whole thing. But, you know, let's run this church burning thing. I want to talk something about church burnings. I think this is going to really blow up. I mean, Donald Trump is a minor player, and he's just showing the buffoonery of the Republicans, period. But anybody that votes for Trump is a part of the problem, the real problem of racism and white supremacy. But this one term. Here's what's really disturbing about what's happening in America. They're attacking God. Now, you know, there are all those good people out here that have some experience of religion or some, you know, there's somebody above there, whether even atheists know there's something going on. But let's go to the church burnings. We'll come right back at you. All right?
Unity, equality.
On any other day, you can hear the sound of children reading Bible verses and playing around the summer camp in this building. Instead, there is silence in the charred ruins. Fire investigators say there is little doubt about what they have found.
Are we looking at a case of arson?
Yes, it is a set fire.
They're keeping parts of the investigation secret for now. What they don't know is who would do this and why. They have not called this a hate crime, but they cannot rule it out. The pastor says he understands the current climate. 9 people killed last week at a black church in Charleston. An apparent hate crime. Black churches everywhere on alert.
Speak directly.
I asked if he had a message for the person responsible.
Honestly, I can speak for this church that we've already forgiven them.
He said he is just as surprised as anyone else. He saw the flames consume his church last night. It was so intense that some neighbors were evacuated from their homes. But he said even if this is a hate crime, his members will not hate those responsible.
We really want to actually cover it in love. We actually don't have any malice against anyone else.
He said these ashes can become the best environment for healing.
These buildings can be repaired, you know, and so it's an opportunity for hearts to be repaired as well. And
Briar Creek Road, the Baptist Church on Briar Creek Road, right before Central, it's on fire.
A church on fire overnight, and investigators say that it was not an accident. Tonight they're searching for an arsonist. Fire officials say Briar Creek Road Baptist Church was set on fire just before 1 this morning and this evening. Investigators tell us that they have some suspects, but they really need more information from the community to help them solve this case. Robin Kennedy standing by live at the church tonight with more on this. Robin, what can you share with us?
We're told this sanctuary suffered a little smoke damage, but the worst is right behind me, the education building here where there are classrooms. And tonight, investigators are trying to figure out why this church was set on fire. Fear is the first thing that came to mind when a pastor watched a fire overtake his church early Wednesday morning.
when I got here, I was even amazed to see that the flames were so high. And, you know, of course, I'm thinking, oh, my goodness, this church is going to be destroyed.
Then things only became more difficult for members of Briar Creek Road Baptist Church in Charlotte. They found out they were dealing with something unholy. Firefighters say it was the work of an arsonist.
We know that anger does nothing, you know, but perpetuates something else to happen.
Pastor Mannix Kinsey is not seeking revenge. He's following in the footsteps of the love we've seen from another Carolina church, the forgiveness of Emmanuel AME in Charleston after 9 people were killed in a massacre there.
I can speak for this church that we've already forgiven them.
Briar Creek has a mostly African-American congregation, so once again, just like in Charleston, there are questions about why the fire was set here. Investigators say they have not ruled out a hate crime.
This is dangerous. We're glad no one was here and was hurt, but it could have happened with children here during a day camp during the day. It could have happened and hurt a lot of people.
As for the arsonist, whoever it is, the pastor only has words of hope.
I don't look at, you know, them versus us. It's not about that. It's really allowing God to be God.
Even in the face of evil.
What do you think about that one? Letting God be God. And this is, was this a test from God about our faith?
Well, obviously it is, because every negative,
right?
We tend to concentrate on the negative and not find the positive in what's going on. And one of my old pastors said that God doesn't respond to Satan. Satan is responding to what God is doing.
Okay.
So no matter what Satan does, he can't override what God has put in place. The thing is that I told my sons when they were growing up, I said, don't hate anybody.
Right.
You can hate what somebody does.
Right.
You know, God hates what we do. He doesn't hate us.
Right.
And grasping that idea, grasping that concept, that is part of what Christians should be about.
Right.
So as we saw last week at Ebenezer and here, people are not festering. I remember Martin Luther King in one of his speeches, he says, I refuse to hate. He said, look at the contours of the people who hate. Look at the contours of their faces.
Right.
He said, I refuse to hate. So as long as you can't get caught up in what they are, you can stay above it. Yes, and as he said, that's just the building. You don't kill. You don't kill the ideology. You can kill a person, but you can't kill the ideology. Just like we can't kill racism. You can't legislate racism away. That is spirit.
We have to love it away?
That is spirit.
We have to love it away.
The only way that spirit can be changed is that God changes that spirit.
But God is love.
That he is. So a person who hates a person who hates can't know God. A person that walks in fear cannot know God. All right? There are
right.
biblical principles
That's right.
that may or not be taught to many
okay.
Christians, but if you read the book for yourself, you'll
Right.
find that out.
Right.
So you can't walk around through life scared.
Right.
And when you look back to the 50s and the 60s, when young children were killed that Sunday morning, when people were beaten at the Pettus Bridge, that wasn't about fear. Fear is a spirit, it's not an emotion. People say, oh, I feel, it's emotion. No, the Bible says fear is a spirit. God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And when you have a sound mind, you will act properly.
What do you say to the gangsters out here, the blacks, they're saying, oh, we're tired. Well, I saw it all over Facebook. You know, they were saying, these niggas are still praying. All right, let's grab you. The best freedom we can get is grab your guns. Now,
Well,
I mean, that's
I've heard that gibberish. I do say this. You have a right to defend yourself at all times and at all costs.
Well, what do you do about this?
All right, about this is one of the things that were discussed last week with regard to security of churches. All right, this is real. When Nehemiah was rebuilding the walls of
Put
Jerusalem,
guns in the churches?
there are guns in churches. So what are you talking about? There are guns in churches. There are people who handle security in churches. There are members who carry guns, who are armed members of churches, who are police officers, correction officers, federal officers. You have, when Jerusalem was being rebuilt by Nehemiah, the work was being done. But there were those who were in opposition to what was being done. And Nehemiah had men who were armed to deal with those who thought they could stop the movement of God. So there were soldiers placed around the city while the workers were building the wall. We are in the same scenario right now. There have to be men and women who will stand while the walls of the churches are not only being rebuilt as this one, but to be the protection for these congregations. You have...
Well, don't you see as this a grand conspiracy by the Klan?
It doesn't make any difference what their conspiracy
So why
is.
don't we just go and attack the Klan?
All right? First of all, you need to know...
In the old days, you remember you telling a story about your grandfather.
Right, but you know
Grab
who
your
you're
guns and
dealing
go get
with.
the Klan.
Right. You have to know, first of all, you have to be able to identify your enemy. You have to know your enemy's weaknesses
Well, we
and
know this
strengths.
is the Klan.
Doesn't make any difference. You need a name. You need to know who the person is. You can't just say the Klan. That's just the Klan.
I see God telling us to do this. Pray hard and leave it up to God.
No, that's
and
not the way that works. No, that's not the way that
and
works.
And the FBI.
That's foolishness.
And Loretta Lynch.
See, because
I think my girl is going to be on this.
I haven't seen
you
God
watch Loretta
fix
Lynch.
breakfast for anybody. People pray for food.
You watch Loretta Lynch.
You
get
still,
on this.
You still must maintain the security of your house.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
All right.
That's what you must do.
All right.
Not just the church. Any place maintains security.
Yeah.
So you know it's.
But don't hate.
You know there's a climate, especially in Charlotte. I was with a group of people on the weekend.
How hard is this for most black people not to hate? I mean, we're close to church philosophy and all that, but the regular Joe out here doesn't know what the hell's going on. He sees this going on, man. I mean, this is so that I've got to really talk to myself not to get angry about. I mean, raising lunatic anger, especially with them burning churches down, man.
Churches were being burned in the 80s, if you remember. This is nothing new.
I don't remember that.
There were church burnings in the South in the 80s.
I don't remember that. Any of that.
This is nothing new.
I wasn't aware of that.
Well, it was going on in the mid to late 80s.
I remember the 60s, but the 80s?
Yes, it was. Go back and just go online, look it up.
I'm sure it's there,
but the fact is
this
that
is up front and in your face.
It's always up front and in your face. It ain't nothing new. Burning a church in the 80s or 100 years ago is the same as burning a church
now. So what do we do about the Klan?
All right.
Grab guns and find out where they are?
First of all, you can't go after, again, it's an ideology.
All right.
You can't identify a
It's
person.
all over the place.
See, and this is the stupidity that people talk, all right? You're not going out shooting somebody, killing somebody just because you're angry, and you don't know how to control yourself, and you don't know how to operate over and against your adversary,
Amen.
all right? Because the only thing you wind up doing is getting yourself locked up and thrown in jail.
That's right.
Okay? So
That's
that's
right.
stupidness.
That's right.
Supreme Court Justice.
You're not surprised that people want to do that.
You can be angry, but you need to know what to do with your anger. Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall said back in 1953 in an interview with Mike Wallace, he said, President Dwight Eisenhower had not done enough to protect black people in this country. Now, Roosevelt did nothing to protect black people in this country with the lynchings and everything that was going on. One thing that the justice did say is that people have a right to protect themselves, and they should always protect themselves. And that's not a constitutional safeguard. That's common sense.
So we put armed guards at churches, and anybody comes and tries to burn it down, shoot them down.
Arson is a crime. It's a shoot-to-kill crime.
Okay.
You can be shot to death and there's no questions asked if you're trying to burn any place down.
So you will put security in the churches, anybody?
Churches have security. Not all, but many do. But if you come to burn a building down, New York State, there are specific crimes for which you can be shot to death while in the attempt.
Okay. All right.
Burglary.
All right.
Arson. That's number 2.
Okay.
Okay? Be a rape. In the commission of a rape, you can be shot to death. All right? First degree escape.
The person being raped could
if a person is raping someone, you have the gun, you shoot him, there's no questions asked. Ding. Move on.
Really?
Dump the body. Where was that? I said rape. First degree escape. First degree escape, we saw those 2 guys that got out of Dannemora, shoot to kill. You don't have to bring them back alive.
Okay.
First degree escape, and that is a person who's been convicted and sentenced to time. Not a person escaping from Rikers Island who hasn't been to trial. That's not first degree escape, that's second. First degree escape, they've been tried, convicted, and sent to prison. All right? I arrested a guy back in 1974 who escaped from a prison in Indiana for a homicide. The FBI was looking for him. But escape, what did I say? Robbery. You can be shot to death for robbery in New York. To terminate, to prevent and to terminate those crimes, and lastly, forcible sodomy. You can be shot to death in the attempt or the commission thereof. Those are the crimes for which you can be shot. And there's no questions asked.
But it has to be then and there. You can't go home and get a gun and come back.
No, in the act. To prevent it, if a person is trying to commit the crime, or the person is in the act of committing the crime.
Okay.
To prevent and to terminate. And arson, no matter what you're setting a house on fire, a barn, whatever it is, you're setting somebody's property on fire, you can be shot to death for that. Doesn't have to be a church. Any building. And now I think they even include people's cars, but don't hold me to that. But buildings, yes, you can be shot for setting a fire.
All right, you know what I want to do? I don't know if it's, we're waiting on Reverend Conrad Tiller. I'm sorry he's late or missing in action. But I want to play this other piece by Obama at, seemed to have been Obama's week. Our week, I should say. I mean, old stuff that's been stewing over the last 6-8 years, the whole length of his presidency. Obamacare, if anything, you know, black people often say, what has he done for black people? I say that is his shining badge of honor right there, Obamacare, because we suffer the most from a lack of health care. And knowing that we can go to a doctor to prevent, you know, these actions that merely half the time just taking care of yourself and checking on yourself, preventive care, and you know, getting insurance when you've had an ulcer or some other minor thing. all these things in not being overcharged as a woman. Everybody knows for years insurance companies have been robbing America blind. I mean, that's one of the biggest legal thieveries, thefts, and anyway, I just wanted to get those other points across, Graham. But
the video.
Let's go to the videotape, and we'll talk a little bit about President Obama. All right? Let's go to the videotape.
Praise houses where their free descendants could gather and shout hallelujah. Rest stops for the weary along the Underground Railroad. Bunkers for the foot soldiers of the Civil Rights Movement. They have been and continue to be community centers where we organize for jobs and justice. Places of scholarship and network. Places where children are loved and fed and kept out of harm's way and told that they are beautiful and smart and taught that they matter. That's what happens in church. That's what the black church means. Our beating heart. A place where our dignity as a people is inviolate. No better example of this tradition than Mother Emanuel. A church built by blacks seeking liberty, burned to the ground because its founders sought to end slavery, only to rise up again, a phoenix from these ashes. When there were laws banning all black church gatherings, services happened here anyway, in defiance of unjust laws. There was a righteous movement to dismantle Jim Crow. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. preached from its pulpit, and marches began from its steps. A sacred place, this church. Not just for blacks, not just for Christians, but for every American who cares about the steady expansion of human rights and human dignity in this country. A foundation stone for liberty and justice for all. That's what the church meant.
I've always said Obama, for me, is a blessing from God. And as far as I'm concerned, he's fulfilling his mission. Mm-hmm. This whole scenario, when I heard it happen, and remember last week we saw that this is a teaching moment from God. Because this attack from the Klan or white supremacists or whoever's behind this came into a church, our sanctuary, where the good people are, and attacked God. The God principle in all of us, mm-hmm. what keeps us alive. I'm always saying a black man without God, or any human without God, is a dead person. He's dead spiritually, he's dead in his consciousness of how it is to be human. Because this is a true animal. This is a true demon.
Well, you hit it on the head. You see, the Bible says, be sober, be vigilant for your adversary, the devil.
Right.
Not the white man.
Right.
Not the black man. not the red man.
Because there are plenty of black devils out here.
The adversary of all human beings
Right.
is the devil, because your adversary, the devil, walketh about seeking whom he may devour.
Right.
Right? So everything that we know and see is a manifestation of something physical.
Right.
Everything. Everything comes out of spirit and mind, and then it's implemented and it's made. You know, the idea for making a chair comes from the mind.
Right.
And the very essence of an individual. That's how God created everything. Everything came out of spirit, out of God.
We create our own worlds.
Right. So here is a man, and we've seen this before. Go back and look at Judas. When you read the story of the Last
we weren't
Supper.
alive then. We
No,
got our
weren't.
Judas right here.
But you got records. You got records. And it's the same old song. This is the
Stick on
point
this
I'm
kid
making.
here.
Let me finish my point. The point I'm making, it's the same old song. And it's the same old character working in different people time and time again. And he's not working on them based upon the color of their skin. It is the spirit. Judas was with Christ. Here's a guy that sat in a prayer meeting with people for an hour, and even said, you know, he thought about how nice they were, and he had reservations about doing it, but he had to complete his mission. Okay?
Because he thought they were animals rather than humans.
I don't know. I didn't hear anything about it.
Well, what was his mission?
I don't. Did he say that he thought they were animals? Did he say that?
Well,
don't suppose,
but that's
don't
what
assume.
the Klan and white supremacists think of us.
I don't give a flying fig. Don't put words in somebody's mouth they didn't say.
Well,
don't think for somebody.
He's waving the Confederate flag, saying he's a white supremacist.
Stick to the
he
facts
hates
and
blacks,
what you got.
And blacks in Confederacy, and that their minds, we're not considered as human.
If the man didn't say it, don't say he said it.
What?
Because
That's their doctrine.
you invalidate yourself.
That's the doctrine.
We're not talking about. We're talking about what the man said.
3/5 of a man doing that day.
We're not going to the Supreme Court Act either. This is what the man said and did is what we got to look at. All right? And you can't think about what somebody's thinking in their mind.
He said he wanted to start a race war.
If he said that, that's one thing. You're saying something you're saying something he didn't say. So don't say something that somebody didn't say, because you get yourself slandered. Now, getting back to what I was saying, Judas hung out with Jesus, didn't he? Didn't he hang out with Jesus?
Mm-hmm.
And then he went out and did what he did. And it says that it wasn't a demon, it was Satan himself. The scripture says Satan entered him. And when Judas came to himself, meaning he didn't even know. He didn't know what he had done until after Satan had left him and he found out what he did. Then he went out and committed suicide. Same scenario.
This kid?
This kid comes in to sit amongst the holies.
Mm.
To sit amongst the holies.
Why
and
that
Judas
church and that group of people?
Sends them to their death.
Don't you think it was a setup?
Maybe it's a setup by God.
To take out the state senator of South Carolina?
Maybe.
Title
is not important. What's so big about
You don't think that
title?
was an assignment by the Klan? To take out
best of the best? Did the boy say he was a member of the Klan?
You don't have, he doesn't have to say anything.
No,
he's waving a
you
Confederate
can't assume.
He's waving the Confederate flag.
All right. There are Confederates.
Confederate
the longest
flag.
running Confederacy township in the United States was in New York State.
City
Line, upstate
kid.
New York, 150 years it celebrated their Confederacy and did not officially rejoin the United States until 2011. Not in Alabama, in New York State. That's record.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Now, don't give credit and assume power to people that haven't accrued it. You don't know that the boys are Klansmen, and I don't know the boys are Klansmen. Being a white supremacist doesn't make you a Klansman. They're different groups.
Either one.
They're different groups.
A hate group.
So you keep talking about the Klan. Doesn't have to be the Klan.
Hate groups think we're animals.
It could be any.
That's part of the justification for being white supremacists.
Winston, Talk sensibly and talk about what you know.
That's what I know.
Don't talk suppositions or assumptions. The boy didn't say nothing about the Klan. He didn't say nothing about the Grand Dragons, wizards, and all that stuff.
Hate group?
He said
White supremacist
there
group?
are dozens of hate groups, Winston. Dozens.
Well, we need to attack every 19 of them
Dozens.
in South Carolina.
All right? So don't put the Klan in it.
I put them all in the same category.
They're not all the same, any more than black people are all the same. All right?
These
You're
hate
thinking
people-
you're thinking the same way they're thinking.
Well,
you can't do that.
No, I think godly of it. I think it's I think it's an act of God.
Well, that's what I said. It could be. It could be a wake up. It could be a wake up call.
We're going to have to teach to learn to love.
Whatever you value, you got to protect. And if you value your house, you put a burglar alarm on it, don't you? All right? If you value your car, you put a alarm on your car. If you value your church now, if you have to have armed members to protect your church, that's what you do. If you value it. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Only a fool would allow somebody to come and destroy their stuff. If I said to you, I want to kill you just because I want to kill you, so you'd be dumb enough to let me just kill you? No, I think you would defend yourself and stop me and prevent me from killing you. That goes with everything. And it's not being violent. Self-defense is not violent. The act against you is what is violent.
Their defense in this church was to turn to God.
Right. And that is the principle that is to be understood. There are a lot of people think they're Christians. They're not Christians.
I'm looking for what the answer is coming from God on this. We know how we have to defend ourselves. I have no problem dealing with that. But I look at the eyes of these people that are so full of hate, and they can't think of us as being human. They never have. They don't think that we're human beings. And that's a premise that's going back to the beginning of slavery. That's why I said what I said. And I have a good reason for saying that, because that's the way they think. That's always been my premise throughout my existence of dealing with racist people. I mean, most of the crackers, I ever had a friend in the Marine Corps that had KKK carved on his wrist. And I was one of the first black people he got to know as a human being. And he was amazed that I was as smart as I was, or articulate as I was, or I didn't hate him. I just laughed at him because I thought he was stupid.
As far as Gump.
That's what I mean.
Stupid is what stupid does.
That's how we have to treat people who think like that, haters. You have to expose them to God's spirit. And I've had black people walk up to me just recently. I mean, what's the most obnoxious thing about us running out and grabbing guns and killing people? And that's not the right route to go. It does who what good? I'm sure, well, you go to different programs and people saying all kind of stuff about it.
I've had people come to me at Amadou Diallo's house. That morning, I was at the house after he got shot. The guy says, we're going to do this and the other. I said, if you were going to do it, you wouldn't be talking to me. You're not doing anything. I had another group at Sean Bell. They're outside ranting and raving about the cops and everything. Kill the cops. I say, hey, man, shut up. This is a funeral.
Yeah.
Right? Shut your face. You talk about killing cops. I said, there's a cop standing right there. You don't have the balls to go over there. You're not going to do anything, so just shut up. All right? Don't talk about killing cops, because you're not killing any cops. Just shut your face. This is a funeral. Have respect for the family. And go somewhere and shut up. If you can't do that, leave. All right? So all the people that talk, they're not doing anything. It's like in Do the Right Thing when Ozzie Davis said, those that know won't tell, and those that don't will. All right? A guy that's going to do something is just going to do it.
That's right.
That's why these young guys standing on the street corners, they're ignorant. They don't know what they're talking about. They're just talking.
It's sad.
And I've had to stop a few people in my time because I don't have time to talk, especially when it's about confrontation. No. If it's a physical, I'm not talking to you about anything. either you want to get down or you want to walk away, because I'm prepared to go the distance, right? And a guy found that out on 42nd Street a couple years ago. I was out with my wife, just about lost his life. I'm not here to jibber jabber with you. I'm a grown man, and I will execute the mission. Anyway, doesn't make any difference. But all that banter about going out and killing people, that's foolishness, because they're not doing it. They ain't gonna do it, no way in the world. So don't even worry about people that run up and talk that stuff.
And this kid was talking about killing people, and what happened? He went out and did it too.
Well, he was serious about what he was saying, all right? All these black people running here, they're not serious about that.
Give me a psychological profile of this kid. I mean, you from a detective standpoint. What sort of madman is he?
I saw a photo of his father. He was profiling with his shirt off, and he had tattoos all over his body.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it came from his dad?
But I couldn't see what the tattoos said. You understand? When we were in Suffolk County with John White and his trial, the boy Daniel that got killed, some of his family members were out there with their head shaved with tattoos on
They're
it.
skinheads.
You know.
Right.
So you have to see, because that kid that got killed, Daniel, his father used to beat his mother.
Whoa.
And his father and mother were not together at the time that he got killed.
Okay.
So we could see where he got that mentality from. He got it from his father.
So this kid died, what was it?
Which one? The boy in South Carolina?
Just killed.
So
Dylan.
What? His father gave him a gun for his 21st birthday.
I understand he bought it himself, they said. After
they say he bought it? I don't know.
Somebody else said his mother bought it.
He's online. He's
but he had a felon against him. Which they didn't run a background check on it. So.
Well, see, that's an entirely
that's
different issue.
That's where you get the guns from, South Carolina, anyway, right?
The gun manufacturers, and this is the thing that the president was talking about, former Mayor Bloomberg with the mayors against gun trafficking and all this stuff. The guns find their way all across the country, not just to New York and Philadelphia, Chicago, LA, and South Central. They find their way throughout society. But you have a young man here who believes that, as he said, the blacks are taking the country away from him and all of this stuff. Now, you got to go back 7 years when President Obama was running. And people were saying, we have to take our country back. 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 You see, that drumbeat, that gets into people's heads. That Republican banter gets into people's heads. And if you tell the lie long enough, they'll believe it as the truth. So another thing.
But why aren't we promoting this as a classic example of what the Republican rhetoric can do to a human mind? Well, to this young 21-year-old kid.
But you see, look at the way that, and you mentioned it before with Brown calling the president a liar in Congress.
Wilson.
Now, Wilson.
Joe Wilson.
I'm sorry, Joe Wilson. So if a statesman can totally disrespect the president of the United States, who happens to be black, he shows no respect for the office, and it's all because the man is black, along with the other traitors who conspired against the president to destroy anything that he attempted to do, which was a treasonous act not only against the nation, but against the people of the nation. So this has been stewing for 7 or 8 years now. And because of the advent. And racism is going to have to be dealt with primarily because there's a black man sitting in that seat at this time.
But this flag went up in '62.
Oh, that flag's been up. It's been up, but it wasn't dealt with. It wasn't dealt with, and it's not going to be dealt with. All right? This governor...
How about the Klansman March on the 18th of this month?
Well...
Next month.
Look at all the pride.
This is July 1st, isn't it?
This is July, right.
Okay.
Look at all the pride that's coming forth You know, we had a Klan rally in New York some years ago, and we organized against them. And the Bloods and the Crips got together and beat them down. I was there. Ran them right out of Foley Square. Ran them out. And
what do you think is going to happen this 18th of July? And the head Klansman lives 20 miles from Columbia, the Colombian capital. He's 20 miles away.
Well, I tell you, the tenor, I spoke with a guy from Columbia, South Carolina this weekend. He was here in New York.
Okay.
And we were sitting in my friend's living room, and he said that the people down there have lost their minds.
Yeah.
He said one of his co-workers said to him, you know, I think I'm gonna get butt naked and get my flag and I'm gonna run down the street. That's what I'm gonna do. So he said, well, that's what you want to do, go do that. You see, but the issue of the flag on the pole, it's all symbolism. And symbolism, you need to understand what it represents.
But this kid was burning the American flag.
Well, this is what
and
I'm
waving
getting to.
the Confederate flag.
This is what I'm
the
getting to.
Sign of treason. The Confederate
acts
flag.
of treason. That's what I'm getting to.
Yeah.
And he said that, you know, you got to keep in mind, she said the flag should come down. That's a ploy. It's a ploy. She doesn't care. She doesn't want the flag down.
Nikki?
And she's not going to really push for it. The only reason why she's saying it is to look nice before the whole world, because the world is watching. But the reality is she doesn't want to come down. Number two, she can't bring the flag down because that is controlled by the state legislature.
Right.
They have to vote on it. And they're not going to vote to take the flag down. Doubt it very much.
Right.
And the true essence of her statement is that they're looking to have her to run on the Republican ticket as a vice presidential hopeful.
Okay.
All right, and they want her, because she's not an idiot like Sarah Palin. They want her to attack Hillary Clinton. They don't want a man to attack Hillary, politician to politician, because they believe people would say he's being sexist and he's saying what he's saying and being nasty, and he's being so nasty to her because she's a woman. No, they want to get her on the ticket. And by her saying the flag should come down, it would be more endearing to more people, because the Republicans are trying to bring more people into the party. But with the likes of some of the people that are running, including Mr. Trump, it's not going to work, you see. But just keep an eye on her, because her name is to be touted by the Republicans for a vice presidential run, I believe. And that's why she's making that statement.
All right, I'm going to give you all a treat, and I'm going to run the last part of Obama's
52?
We got a few minutes. Hopefully we can get back to you. All right? Let's run that last piece and we'll come back.
He knew that the path of grace involves an open mind, but more importantly, an open heart. That's what I felt this week. Open heart. That, more than any particular policy or analysis, is what's called upon right now, I think. What a friend of mine, the writer Marilyn Robinson, calls that reservoir of goodness, beyond and of another kind, that we are able to do each other in the ordinary cause of things. Reservoir of goodness. We can find that grace. Anything is possible. If we can tap that grace, everything can change. Amazing grace. Amazing grace. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch Clementa Pinckney found that grace. Cynthia Hurd found.
As you see, he mentions everybody that was murdered at the church there. And that wasn't a church, that was an auditorium where they gave this event. There were so many people, of course. But that's my man. I mean, he just came into tune that gave us a little blessing.
The song, Amazing Grace,
yeah.
There's an interesting story behind that song.
Yeah, about a slave master.
A slave trader.
He wrote the tune. He wrote the words?
He wrote the words and the
but
tune.
But he heard the tune from
from the slaves. It was an old melody from West Africa that the slaves had in the hold of the ship.
Yeah.
And taking the melody from the slaves,
he wrote the
and
song.
he wrote the song, realizing after his wife and children had died that the things that he had been involved in were so heinous, but it was the grace of God.
Yeah, right.
That turned him around, and that's what this is about.
That's right.
The love of God.
That's right.
You can't quench it. You can't kill it.
That's
you can't stifle it. And as I said before, Satan, or as my old pastor said, Satan only responds to the good that God is doing. God is never responding to Satan.
And with that, we have a close with the God in me loves the God in you. And we have to control that devil that exists in all of us. As this demon comes out, it's just God testing us, testing our faith and how we believe and love one another. And I have to look back and think how you can love more and take care of your own. Protect who you are and what you're about. And try to pass on and love yourself and love others as God loves you. You have to love people as God loves people. Stay tuned next week for another Gilchrist Experience. God bless.